Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second season of the Bold Vision podcast. This is where we spot bold leaders, game changers, and business owners who are really pushing the envelope and making a real impact in their industries. I'm your host, Sonya Sanchez, the founder of Bold Vision SEO. And I am a firm believer that when we share knowledge, we all rise. On this show, we have real conversations that matter, covering everything from marketing and growth, legal protections, operations, and leadership. So, whether you're a contractor, a service provider, a small business owner, this podcast is here to help you scale with confidence and clarity. Today, I am incredibly excited to invite my friend and business owner, Beth Goldsmith, Creative Works. She is an interior designer in Northern Virginia. And these are one of those conversations that you are not going to want to miss. So, Beth, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you.
Well, I'm so happy to be here, Sonia. Hi, friend. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. So, yeah, we're just going to really just jump right into it and, find out a little bit about you. Maybe about, I don't even know if you were born and raised in Virginia, how you got involved in becoming an interior designer. So, why don't you just give us a little history about yourself?
Well, let's see. I was actually born in Florida, Pensacola, Florida. I'm a Navy brat. My father was a naval pilot, traveled all over Europe when he was stationed in different places. But pretty much I've called Northern Virginia home for as long as I can remember, probably since I was 3 or 4 years old. Grew up in McLean. Then my parents pioneered and we moved out to Reston, Virginia, where I grew up with just an amazing gaggle of kids everywhere. And Reston was a great place to grow up.
Awesome.
So I'm a
Awesome.
Northern Virginia native, I like to call myself.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I've had the pleasure of meeting Beth at a networking event, and her and we've become, somewhat of some friends, and we share and we know a lot of the same people. So I've enjoyed getting to know her and learning about her work in the interior design space. So I know that you work with lots of contractors, tradesmen. You've probably seen it all.
I've seen
So how how'd you get involved in interior design? How did that
So,
start for you?
growing up in Northern Virginia, let's see, I think I told you my father was a naval officer. My mother was a school psychologist in Fairfax County. Actually, one of the school psychologists at my high school. I think there was probably one summer when she wanted to get me out of her hair, so she voluntold me to work
Voluntold. Love that.
in friends' classrooms, and this
Okay.
was self-contained school for children with special needs. It was called Kilmer Center. It's in the Dunloring area of Fairfax County near Tyson's Corner. And so I'd always been a babysitter. I had an entrepreneur babysitting, job for many years. And like I said, Reston, there was just gaggles of kids. So I already had that entrepreneurship blood, I guess. But so I volunteered in this classroom and I fell in love with students with special needs. And that became my calling. So I've always been an artist. I took private art classes growing up, but I started working in this classroom and then that just became my passion. I knew I wanted to become a teacher. I knew I wanted to work with children with special needs. So I went to East Carolina University, go Pirates, down in Greenville, North Carolina, and majored in special education, minored in art. And next thing I know, I've got a paid teaching gig. So I started teaching right out of college and I taught students with special needs. And I did not go to school for interior design. I always like to be very straight up with people about that. I've had my business for over 25 years now. So as a teacher, I was always the resident artist. People were asking me to paint banners before parents' nights or help them paint set designs for plays. And I think there was a teacher night or parent night coming up, and I was tired of the banners falling down on the floor and getting torn up. So I said, why don't you let me paint something on the wall? So we then proceeded to work up a proposal for the PTO to paint 2 murals for the schools, and it got passed. I stood on top of 2 cafeteria tables. I do not recommend doing that. This is before I knew about scaffolding and safe ladders, but I painted 2 murals for my school, and I was living in Old Town Alexandria at the time. This is pre-husband, pre-daughter, and my hairstylist, who I was very close friends with, he asked me to help him redesign his salon. And so I did all these faux finishing techniques and redesigned the salon and picked out paint colors. And next thing I know, he's like, you better get some business cards made. I almost said, you better get some paint colors made. You better get some business cards made. And so business cards made. I've been teaching for maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 years, maybe, I don't even know at that point. Maybe it was more like 10 years now that I think about it. And next thing
Okay.
I know, the side hustle started.
So
Next thing I know,
that was an early win, like that
that was
school. That
and I
was the thing
started.
that gave you the
Yeah,
confidence.
it was, and I had no intention on starting a business. I mean, I'd always worked retail, clothes and design are my passion, and so are working with students with special needs. But to me, designing a room is no different than designing an outfit for a body. And so, anyway, that little side hustle took off, and I made the decision to take a leave of absence from teaching and kept my health benefits. And next thing I know, I had to make the decision because given my clientele and I was getting lots of projects, I took a leap of faith. It was very scary, but I at least knew that if I fell flat on my face, I could get my job back. And I never looked back.
Well, that
So
is
I
true.
miss teaching, but I've had my business for, like I said, 25 years. So I got into this business as a muralist and a faux finisher, and then it has morphed into a full-on interior design business. Majority of my work now is interior design. I
Okay.
still do some, custom painting and faux finishing, like, clients that know about it, but I'm too old to be climbing up and down scaffolding. But I mean, I'm just blown away. Now we do kitchen remodels, remodeling. We're an award winning business. So, I truly believe if you love what you do, it starts off as a hobby. And next thing I know, it becomes a crazy business.
Yes. Like, tell us some of your early wins, maybe some of your real early projects. Now, this was before marriage, before kids, right?
So I would
Okay.
I would just back up 1 second. Is I was, as a teacher, even though I did those 2 murals for my school, I got to use art in my classroom every single day, whether it was drawing a lesson or drawing a sketch for a child so that they would understand the concept of what I was trying to teach better, because I worked with children that had a variety of disabilities. So all those skill sets, as from being a teacher, have transferred over to running an interior design business, where it was all project management. In a
Mhm.
classroom, it was, you're going to music, you have centers, and my kids' systems, you might have occupational therapy, or you might have physical therapy, or you might be going to the counselor. But now it's, instead of a art teacher or an occupational therapist, you're a plumber, you're an electrician, you're a cabinet provider. So I run my business like a kindergarten class. It's really not that much different. Anyway,
That's
that's
that.
all I want to add to that.
No,
Yeah.
that's a really good analogy. So,
Yeah.
and sometimes managing contractors is like being with kindergartners, you know?
Everybody behavior plan. They just don't know it.
I love that. I love that.
I put myself on a behavior plan too.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us about maybe one of your, what's the word I'm looking for? Like not best project, but just a project that maybe it was the worst, looking project. And you thought, oh my God, like, what am I going to do with this place? And at the end, it was just a total transformation. Why don't you give us an example of something that sticks in your mind?
Well, I will be honest with you that first project was probably my house. My husband and I, as crazy as we were, bought a fixer upper in Percival. And I
Okay.
remember we moved out here. I had some friends over because I wanted to show them the new house that we were going to buy. And my friends thought I had lost my frickin' mind. Like, first of all, where's Percival? You're a city girl. What the heck are you talking about? Because I met some stupid boy from Loudoun County who I've been married to for almost, what, 24, 20. Well, we've lived in sin a little bit. So let's just say we probably been together 26 years. But I've always been able to see past what might be, everyone's got their skill sets. For me, I can look at a diamond in the rough and I can see the finished product. I can
Okay.
walk into someone's home, and after them describing what it is, they want to achieve, I can see that finished project. So I knew with our house, I mean, there were some scary days when we opened up walls and we found some scary things, but I knew I bought in a wonderful neighborhood. I knew it was where I wanted to raise a family. And I could see all those rooms done. I could see all the junk being pulled out and it just being fixed up. And I, I still think I'm like that. I mean, like, even if it's, let's say, if me going, okay, today I'm going to get dressed and I'm going to put a certain outfit together. I can picture that whole outfit, how it's going to look in my head before I've even put it together. And so, everyone's got their strengths and their weaknesses. I kind of have, I always say, creativity is my superpower. And
Right.
I think outside the box. I think you have to, as a designer or even a contractor or anybody in the trade, because there's always a surprise and you got to pivot and be able to switch it up at a on a dime.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
our house was one of my, like, it was a huge undertaking. But then I think about like the apartment that I was living in Old Town Alexandria, which had all the original woodwork and hardwood flooring and tiles. And once I cleaned it all up, it was just the cutest little jewel box to me. And I've always loved old houses. And I've always, so I don't know. Did that even answer your question?
Well, no, I'm letting you talk because I want to find out, like, in the house, though, what was the one room or the one area that was just the most undertaking, like the most overwhelming that you thought, oh my God, what am I going to
Well,
do in here? And tell us what you did.
I mean, the previous owners, and I'm not knocking Home Depot. I'm probably at Home Depot once a week, but everything was done with like that plastic vinyl paneling and fake tile, which was like sheets of, I don't even know how to describe it. Like it was just bad. But I knew that was just aesthetic. I could rip things off the walls. The power of paint is an amazing thing. Like for me, living in our house, which is the old part of it is 100 years old, you have to embrace the imperfections. Now, there's just straight up ugly, which this house had a lot of ugly, but it also had really good bones and a lot of charm. And, you can call those things imperfections or you can call them charm. And so I embraced the crooked floors upstairs. But once again, I loved the neighborhood. I knew I could walk to places downtown Percival. So we bought it. Our house was like 1,500 square feet with an oil tank in the basement, no central air conditioning, and a washer dryer in the basement, and one bathroom. I had lost my
Yeah.
mind, and I had a 6 months old. But within 6 months, we put on an additional 800 square feet because I knew I bought the house for the lot and the neighborhood, and I knew I was going to add on. And then, when I was working with contractors, no one would tell me when they were showing up. And it got to be like, okay, here comes kindergarten class mode. We're going to have a meeting. And once again, we started sending some ground rules. And I'm like, so I project managed our entire remodel to our house. And we've since added on multiple times since then. But that's kind of where I got that skill set. Like if I can manage putting a 800 square foot addition on my home, I can do this.
Right.
And then there was a client that I was working with, lovely client, mostly design, fabrics, paint colors, furniture layouts. And one day she goes, "You're going to remodel my kitchen." And I said, "Well, Judy, I've never remodeled a kitchen before." And she goes, "Well, there's a time for everything." So she was my first model. And that was what, 12 years ago? So, you learn as you go. But I'm very proud of what I've accomplished. And I think if you treat people nicely, it comes back to you. And you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. So I make sure that I really vet the people that I pull in on any project to make sure that they are going to do their best every day.
Right. No, I agree
So yeah,
totally.
like
And
such a, yeah.
no, I agree totally. And
Yeah,
so let me just ask you, so the 800 square
sure.
feet that you added onto your house, what part of the house is that?
So we added on to the side of the house and we added on a double story addition, a primary bedroom and bathroom suite, and then also downstairs a living room, mudroom, and powder room.
Okay. All
And
right.
then we've done another phase. We've added on a screened in porch, which is now a sunroom. And then the last addition we added onto our house was my design studio, which I'm not in right now. I'm currently sitting in my family room because it's been a long day and I've been on my feet all day. So I got my feet up to while I'm
Well, there you
talking to
go.
you on my right.
Yeah. Well, we
So,
want
but
you to
that,
be relaxed.
yeah, exactly. So that's been a little bit about my house. But, as far as projects, even though most of my work is interior design, I am an artist. I like getting my hands dirty. I still remember when I made the leap to stop teaching, one of my first projects was to work on a clawfoot iron tub for a customer in Georgetown. I'd never painted a tub before.
And those are
So I had
porcelain tubs, right? Aren't they made of porcelain?
heavy iron tub with big claw feet. So I did all this research. All this research on how am I going to bond these materials to the tub. So it wasn't just the art that was so much fun. It was the research and finding out how do I make this done the correct way. But I remember standing out in my overalls, out with drop cloths down, and I had paint in my hair, and it was like one of the happiest days of my life. I still remember how happy I was because I was like, wow, I am supporting myself as an artist. And then that morphed where, I truly believe you emulate the clientele you want to work with. So I never would show up at a client's house in my paint clothes. I would show up in my girly clothes and emulate the clientele I was working with, which, and then next thing I know, because that first impression of me not just was like, oh, wow, she's got cute shoes, but it was, wow, as a designer, she looks pulled together. And so that would then, I think, help me get these projects. I mean, trust me, I'm a hot mess. This is a faux finish every day with makeup and putting an outfit together. But I really think you put your best foot forward. And then, I knew enough about design and color concept where the clients would be like, well, now that you're picking out paint colors for our faux finishing and stripes, I could put on my design hat and go, you know what? Have you ever thought about moving your sofa over here? Or maybe since you want to have these new colors introduced, maybe we should buy some pillows and window treatments. So I'm not trying to sound, full of myself, but I've learned a lot by watching others, but I'm very proud of being self-taught. And I do stay current on, current trends and architectural, details and things like that.
Well, speaking of trends, let's talk about that a little bit. So what type of trends are you seeing in the marketplace like right now?
Ooh, well, there's two theories on that one. I would say gray is starting to see its way out, but I also come from the standpoint of you have to paint what you love. Like if you look behind me, I've got a dark forest green wall.
I love
I
the
love
color. I
I'm
love
a
it. I mean, I saw it right when you got on, and
Thank
that's one of my
you. And
favorite colors, actually. So I love green.
it speaks to me. Not everyone likes green. Like I love wearing blue, but blue is not what I want to come home to. But I have a lot of clients that love blue, or I have clients that have very modern tastes, and I live in half my house is historical. So even though there are trends to follow, I always caution people on not jumping on that certain trend. Like first of all, do what you love. Like if you're redoing your house because you're going to be selling it, you need to kind of focus on neutrals and do what's popular. But let's say if you've just bought a new house and you're planning on being there for a while, you need to make that place your own. It needs to represent you, your family, your personality, and because you're the one that's got to live in it. And if you love pink, then embrace that. Have an awesome pink room, or maybe add in some fabrics that have pinks in them. I'm just using that as an example. But to me, my job as a designer is not to push my personal style on you. It's to pull out what your personal style is and to reinforce what makes you happy. And that's why I think being a special ed teacher has made me a better designer, is that there's so much psychology to design.
Right.
What you want to come home to and what you love to wear and what you love in your home might be totally different than what I want to do. And I don't want to take that away from anyone. I want to embrace it. Oh, and also when I'm working with couples in a residential environment, she might have one color scheme that she loves, he might have another. And it's my job to be marriage counselor and make sure everybody gets what they want. So there's different philosophies that I apply to residential work. I also do commercial work. And then, when you think about you're going out to a restaurant, the food needs to be good, but you're also there for the experience. And food
Yeah.
tastes better in a pretty restaurant, because the colors that they choose to use or the textures or the patterns, that invokes feelings. And the feelings that you get when you're there are because of the experience and the food and the wait staff. But, when you walk into a restaurant, it can be like super sleek and sexy and modern, and that's going to invoke a certain feeling and style. Or you can walk into a little cottagey hole in the wall restaurant, and that's going to invoke another different kind of feeling. And also, let's say if it's a commercial office space, you want to exude confidence to your clients. Maybe you want to reinforce your brand colors. So we want to pebble that into your office space. But you can't have a hot mess. People need to walk in there, and even though they might not even know it right away, they need to feel a certain way when they're walking into that office, like, all right, this guy, this gal, they've got it. And
Right.
I want what they So I want to work with them because I feel good in this space.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, you're spot on with the restaurants because of course, when I go to a restaurant, I want really good food. I mean, if the food's
Right.
terrible, I won't go back. But the atmosphere
Oh
is
yeah,
everything. I
it is.
continue to go back to the same places just because I love the
Right.
atmosphere. I love the staff. I When I go there, I feel warm or cozy or there's just certain
Exactly.
places that I like to go and it's because the
Right.
ambiance and the environment. So I think you're spot on with that, depending on, whether it's residential or commercial. So let's just talk about your everyday life. Like, what does your role look like? I mean, walk us through a day in the shoes of Beth Goldsmith. What's it look like?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a scary can of worms. Let's see. Where do I start?
Let's talk about
Well,
you
if
get
I
up
had
in the
to,
morning. I mean, you got to
I
sleep.
do.
You get up. You have
Thank
a
God I get
routine.
up in the morning. If I didn't get up in the morning, I'd be dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do enjoy waking up in the morning. I would say my favorite morning, I mean, and every day is different. It depends on what contractors I might be working with. I always joke that sometimes I'm in charge, like, yay, I'm in charge of my business today because I'm the one setting the meeting schedule. And then there's some times where I'm like, okay, I need to meet with a plumber or an electrician or an architect. And, their schedule might be a little bit more tricky. So I have to allow myself to be on a job site at 7:30 in the morning. Those are not my favorite mornings, but I make sure I do what needs to get the job done. My favorite morning is to wake up, get some pajama work done, sit at my little desk in my office and my robe and my PJs while I'm drinking my coffee, check on my emails, start seeing who's responded to emails that I might have just sent, maybe have the TV on in the background and just kind of groove into my day. That would be my favorite kind of morning. The juices are flowing, creative things are going. Then I go down to my studio and I will, break down what needs to be done for each client. Like, okay, I've got to order fabric samples for one client. I need to, invoice another client. I mean, no day in my world is the same. Every single day is busy. And I do enjoy networking. I'm definitely a people person, as you can tell by the fact that I haven't stopped talking. But I do enjoy getting out there and going to networking groups and not just to get my name out there, but because you never know who you're going to meet. And like that's how you and I met. But it's also kind of my battery gets full when I'm with people. That's kind of what charges me up. But yeah, every day is different. I mean, sometimes my days are I have to go pick up tile or I get to go select tile. Or I've got a client meeting where I get to present all the goodies that I've been sourcing behind the scenes. Some days, everyone assumes that design is glamorous. I'm going to debunk that right now. Design is not glamorous. It is heavy lifting, hauling, unpacking boxes, putting things in and out of the car. My car we refer to as the gypsy mobile because there's always something coming in and there's always something going out of it. And it's rare that more than one person can fit in it. But yeah, every day is different and I'm very blessed. I mean, what I'm doing is not life or death. It has to be fun.
Right.
So I really do it has to be fun. And I try to make every project fun with my clients. I mean, even though it's not life or death, design and construction is stressful. There's a lot of things on the line when you're dealing with plumbing and electricity, but it's all about making sure that the client feels heard and it becomes an enjoyable experience through the whole project.
Yeah. No, I
So I
agree
kind of went off.
totally. No, that's okay. That's okay. Hey, they're here to, we're here to spotlight you. We want to know about you. We want to know about your business. So let me just ask you, I mean, and this is just in business, nothing personal, but is there something that's easier or harder right now that, in your space? Like, are there anything that comes to mind that makes business harder or easier right now for you? I mean, whether it's technology or marketing or
That's a good
hiring or
question. And let me think about that one. I mean, I would say the easier part is that there are so many things online. Like I think about when I really got into design, I would have to go to a fabric store and physically look through bolts and bolts of fabric. Whereas now I can still do that same task, but I can get on 5 different websites or more than that I have trade accounts with, and I can source in brands and names and, find all sorts of different selections. You know, I am not the most tech savvy person. I mean, I can do to scale computer renderings for like kitchen remodels and things like that. But have I embraced AI yet? Not yet. Not yet. But I think with technology and computers and the interweb, everything is at our fingertips, which I think has made design very more straightforward, much more straightforward. But for me, I still like to see it, feel it, touch it. So I would never just for a client, hey, I'm going to pick this fabric for your window treatments. I would never just pick it on an image I saw on a computer. I would
Right.
still want that fabric to arrive. So that I think would be an example of resources have become so much more readily available
Right,
as
because you can
far
order
as
a sample, just like flooring
exactly
and tile.
right.
Yeah, you can go on and
Yeah,
you can pick 3 or 4.
exactly.
Like you said, you're not gonna,
Right.
order something for a client without feeling it, looking at it, taking it to the job
Right.
site. You gotta match the paint, all of these things, but you're right,
Right.
technology is, on the horizon, it's not stopping. I mean, it's just doing this, so
Exactly. And I probably have to catch up a little bit. I'm
yeah, but
aging myself. I'm 58 years old. So I am aging myself to where I am in this business. So I'd say that's what makes things easier. I'm trying to think what makes things more difficult or
yeah.
challenging. Is that
Is
the
there
other half
anything
of
that
that?
makes it harder? Is it
Um,
finding good contractors? Is it finding help? Hiring? I
I
mean,
would
is
say
it
finding help. Yeah, I did just hire. I've always had assistants in the past, and since the pandemic, I haven't had an assistant. Which is, I work 7 days a week. That needs to stop. But because everyone needs a work life balance.
yes,
But I have recently hired someone, and I didn't want to just put ads in the newspaper and take people that way. I wanted someone to kind of find me and me find them kind of organically. So I've needed help for a while, but now I feel really good that I've got some reinforcement. But I do think, like, sometimes, I have really skilled people that I love to work with because I've said I've vetted them, but I could sometimes clone them and say, okay, I need 3 of you this week and I need 2 of you. And that's probably been the challenging part because I think now with everything being not computered. Oh my gosh, I'm tired today. With the technology that we have, while yes, that puts things immediately at our fingertips, people expect things immediately.
you're right about
And
that.
keeping up with that, so it's managing clients' expectations of, hey, we're going to go through this process, which has, been clearly defined before we start working together. But it's managing that. Okay, just because you have a phone in your hand, should you be texting me at 11 o'clock at night? Maybe not. Should I be texting you at 11 o'clock at night? Unless something's on fire, we shouldn't be that accessible to each other. So I would say that might be a little bit of a challenge, but and I do think, no, I would say, yeah, I think that kind of, there's no
Yeah, no,
real challenges. I mean, I think, like, once again, every project is different and there's going to be a challenge on every project. Like, let's say if I'm doing window treatments, a dye lot on a fabric might come in different than the sample. So then I need to pivot on that or find a new fabric or have the workroom correct that. It might be that cabinets come in damaged and I have to have a replacement. I like particularly working with smaller companies
okay,
because then I'm not dealing with 1-800 numbers. I'm dealing with people, and my interactions with them are relationship based.
yes,
And they know me and I know them, and it's like, okay, Beth's calling, okay, we've worked with Beth for 10 years, let's help out Beth, or vice versa. Somebody calls me, hey Beth, I've got a design question, and it's so much fun having people in the trade that you can bounce ideas off of, whether it's another designer. I have friends that are designers, or it might be another contractor. Hey Beth, I've got this thing, could we paint this or could we do that, or so it's all just about kind of lifting each other up and helping.
talking about the competition, because I know there
Yeah.
are a lot of interior designers around here. One of my very first
Yes.
clients was an interior designer, and I remember
Okay.
when I went to go do research, I was like, "Wow, there's a shitload of them." And, now that I'm doing all this networking, I mean, I'm running into tons of them. And so, how would you describe your competition? Or do you even feel like they are your competition? How would you describe that?
Healthy competition is good. You
Okay.
know, I also think that every designer, somebody told me if I'm getting every project, I'm doing something wrong. Meaning that, yes, would I like to be awarded every single project, but there's kind of a lid for every pot. It might be that what my skill set brings to the table, or my personality, or my availability, that might be the right fit for that client.
Okay.
Or it might be that that's not the right fit for that client. Maybe I'm not their person. Maybe I don't fit their budget. Or maybe they want someone who has more commercial experience. I'm just throwing some things out there. I would say in any industry, whether it be design or architecture or building, there are going to be some jackasses out there who are not going to play nice in the sandbox.
Yeah.
That to me is what I consider unhealthy competition. But I know probably 6 to 10 interior designers. Some I'm very, very close with, and we get together and we drink wine and we hang out and we bounce ideas off each other. And it's really, really nice because we learn from each other.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm not trying to step on their toes, and they're not trying to step on mine. I just recently had another interior designer refer me for a project, and this is holiday decorating. I last year did all of Magnolia's here in Percival. I did all their Christmas decor. So I'm meeting with a client Friday morning because my name was shouted out on Facebook, where another designer passed my name on, knowing that I do that. They don't do that. That's not their wheelhouse. So I think there's enough to go around. Just like you could throw a rock and there'd be a million, realtors that would be hit by that rock in our area.
Yeah.
So, I think it's all about setting yourself out from, or setting yourself apart from the other one. I'm no better than any other interior designer. I just might be different than
Different.
that other designer. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I've met a lot of
yeah,
you guys, and yeah, you all have different styles, different personalities, different
exactly.
backgrounds, different
Right,
visions, you know?
right.
So, and I think
Yeah.
that as long as you have a good, healthy balance, and that there's, everyone is
Mhm.
mature and can get along, and, nobody's threatened by one another, because you don't
Exactly.
need to be. I mean,
Yeah.
especially where we live, there's so much
Yeah.
work. I mean, there's so, just get on the
Right.
road around here, and I mean, every other car is a
Right.
contractor, whether it's a painter, an HVAC,
Yeah.
electrician, a
Absolutely.
siding. I mean, it's insanity. I mean, there's so much construction around here.
Well,
So
it's funny. I did a designer show house years and years ago, and it was a juried show house where each designer got a room, and all these people applied for this designer show house. And I was one of the ones that got awarded. I decided to do this bathroom because I figured I'm going to start off small. So I used all my faux finishing and art skills. I sewed the little skirt. This was a beautiful historic old manor house in Leesburg. But I remember this was when our daughter was probably 1 or 2 years old, and my husband and I are walking up these big grand staircases up to the room. And this woman, who was another designer, is like, "Honey, where are your people?" And I said, "Well, you're looking at him, like, here's my husband. He's going to help me schlep this furniture up here. And here's my daughter. I don't know what she's going to do. She's going to look cute." But I was just so taken aback that this woman was talking down to me and had such this air about her. And I'm thinking, lady, you're no better than I am. You're just older and you have more experience.
yeah,
But she ended up turning around, and I kind of, as we got to know each other, I called her on the mat about her behavior with me, and we ended up becoming friends and staying in touch for a while. But it was just so funny. I'll still never forget that. I'm like, yeah, you're looking at him. This is it. This is as good as it gets.
yeah. So speaking of your one man show, I mean, where do you want to take the business, like in the next 6 months, 12 months, 36 months? I mean, are you completely happy just staying exactly the way you are? Or do you want to grow?
Well, growing to me is kind of a big word because when I was doing predominantly faux finishing, I had a crew of 10 people working under me. And I do love really big projects because, like, right now I'm working on a house where we've redone the kitchen. We're now working on multiple bathrooms, and then that's morphing into, window treatments for the other rooms and paint colors. So I like big projects where you get a whole bunch of different plates in the air that you've got to, work with. But I don't know if I want to grow, and then I'm pulling in the necessary people to complete that work. But I don't want to grow where I'm like a designer that has 5 or 6 designers under me. That's not how I see myself. I know when I was doing that with when my faux finishing company was so big, it took the creativity away from me. I became more of a manager than a hands-on artist. So for me, I still like being really hands-on. Now, would I like to grow my business? Yes, but I think it's more of I want to evolve my business in the respect that I would really like to start incorporating art back into my business more. I'm a published illustrator. I would like to start doing more of that. I'm a giant ham. I like talking to people. And I really think that as far as what all of us business owners can bring to the table is educating others. So, even though I'm no longer a special education teacher, I'm still a teacher. My job with my clients is to educate them on the best price options, the best selection options for the way they run their life. If you've got dogs and triplets, then a white linen sofa is not for you. But I'm going to
Right.
help educate you on some really good options. So I'd like to grow my business more like layering some things into it, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Right.
Not
So, I mean,
quite
if
sure
you,
what I fully want to be when I.
right. So, what you're saying, what I'm hearing is you really like the creative part, So, if you could get more clients that allowed you to be more creative, not just
Yeah,
remodeling something, but getting
right.
in there and actually decorating
Yeah,
a restaurant or painting murals or getting in a museum or,
yes. Yeah,
something like that, you would be just head
yeah.
over heels in
Yeah,
heaven,
I
right?
like it. I mean, I like a challenge. I mean, I definitely know where my skill set stops and starts, but I'm also I get bored easy. And that's why I think this job is perfect for me because every project is different. Every
Right.
project has its challenges. I get to work with different people in the trade on different projects. And at the end of the day, if I've done my job right, the client and I are going out and having a fun dinner together and a glass of wine. So I kind of like my business world and my personal world to become a little incestuous,
Yep.
where, my friends are my clients are my friends, and then we're all staying in touch. So, but yeah, I'm not quite sure what my next growth spurt is going to be with my business, but I can feel it coming. I think it's definitely going to involve art. Still doing the design. I don't know. I haven't quite figured. I have some things I can't reveal quite yet.
Okay. Well, we'll save that for another time. So I always ask, a
Okay.
lot of my guests. This is like my little, I want to kind of get in their head, and I say, if you had a magic wand and you could fix one issue in your business, like what would it be? If you could just be I Dream Genie and do
Oh my
like that,
gosh.
what would it
Okay,
be?
well that is an easy one. That is an easy one for me.
All
So
right.
you can tell when Beth, I run a home-based design studio. I've
Okay.
had places where I've had a retail shop, I've had a studio offsite, and I'm the one over there at 10 o'clock at night in her pajamas because I need to go back and get something or I want to add that one more thing. But I am definitely your right brain creative girl. And you can tell I'm home because I leave trails since I've walked in the door. For me, I think that the most difficult thing that I run into is the clutter of a design business. All the samples and the rug samples and the fabric samples and all the things that help sell that project and help complete that project is all the stuff that when it's done in my studio becomes stuff.
And then you think
Does
that
that
you're
make
probably
sense?
gonna
So,
right, and then you're gonna think, "Well, I don't wanna
yeah,
get rid of it because I might get another project,
right.
and I can use that."
Exactly.
It might be
Right.
perfect, and if you throw it all away, well, now,
Right.
so have you ever thought of getting a
Yes.
storage
And I
unit?
don't want things to go.
What
Yeah,
about a
I do
storage
have a
unit?
storage unit, but I don't want things to go to the landfill. But it's like there is so much stuff. And I don't mean that in a bad way because that stuff is important stuff. There's a lot of stuff with design.
Oh, for
It's not
sure.
just I'm carrying a paint wheel and that's it. But
Right,
there's
but you could go
piles. I
rent
mean, and
you
so that,
I mean, I'm just saying a storage unit, a air conditioned, climate controlled storage unit, 10 by
yeah,
15. You put shelves all around it, you build and
right.
you have it all organized. You need an organizer. We need to find you an organizer.
I need an organizer. My new assistant, who is absolutely lovely, she definitely is probably more organized than I am, and it's so much easier to clean up somebody else's stuff than it is your own. Like I can go to a client's house and I can help organize toys for a playroom, and I can do all that. but don't come to my studio unannounced. I need an appointment so I can prep it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, very good. Well, we're running in about 45 minutes, so I'm going to start to wrap it up just a little bit, but I do want to talk about your
Okay.
awards. I definitely want to talk
Oh, well,
about,
thank you. That's very
your
sweet of you.
awards. So I know that you have won some awards. So why don't you just tell anyone that's listening, what type of awards you've won, what were they for? And yeah, just give us a little insight on that.
Well, let's see. The awards are, I don't know what you would call them. I mean, it's best of. This year we won runner up interior designer of Loudoun County. That was through Loudoun Now newspaper. And the other one is through Loudoun Times Mirror. So I'm very proud of those because I didn't campaign for them. I didn't tell a whole bunch of people to vote for me. It was more, it's kind of humbling in the respect that we've won these multiple years in a row. And, I guess I've put my name out there enough. I must be doing something right and making some people happy, because it's kind of nice
I would
that,
think so.
people thought about voting for me. So
How
I'm
do
very
you get
flattered by it.
nominated? Right. Well, how do you even get nominated for something like that? How does that happen? You don't know?
Somebody throws your hat in the ring and then
Okay.
people vote. So, I mean, I guess you can call it a glorified popularity contest, which I don't know if that's what it is or not. But I definitely run a little old school in the respect that, my website's outdated. I don't do a lot of print marketing, but I get out there and I meet people and I connect with people. And like I said, my business really is a relationship based business because I just like people. I like
Right.
nice people.
Of course. So, for anybody that might be listening, that might be wanting to start a business, I mean, I know marketing these days, I do digital marketing. I think it's very, very important to have a good
Yeah.
website, to be found
Yes.
on Google,
It
to
is.
have all
Yeah,
those things.
absolutely.
But I mean, unless you're an established business and you've been doing this for years, like you said, you've lived in the area, people know who you are.
Yeah, I've had my
You've done
business for over 25 years. Yeah,
even like doing the holiday decorations, stuff like that, families go and I really want to come see it this year. So, I love holiday decorations. So I'm excited to come and see that.
I do too.
Yeah. So that's really good that, I mean, I'm just very proud of you too, that you've had the honor of having these
Well, and I
awards and
think
that
what
people
I
have
would
recognized
tell
you.
anyone who, sorry, I think there's a little bit of a delay on the phone. It's been breaking up a little bit. I apologize if I just cut you off. I think, one thing that I would say to people that want to start a business is the work that's coming to me now are seeds that were planted 15, 10, 5, 2 years ago, that when you're starting off, it's really easy to want that transaction because you want to put money in your bank account, your business account. But yeah, really have to build those relationships, because you never, like, I still get calls from people. Like, just yesterday I got a call from a woman who wants some furniture painted. I really haven't painted furniture recently, but her name was given to me by a client from like 5 years ago.
There you go.
And so I'm probably going to take it on because I can fit it into my schedule and I can do it in my studio and then deliver it to her. And that's a little something fun for me to do, between selecting fabrics for another client. But it's really just getting to know people, and you just never know who you're going to meet. You never know who's going to be that big break for you, or even the other way around. You might be the person who helps really lift up that person's career because you might be just the person they need at that time. One of my favorite phrases is a reason, a season, a lifetime.
Yeah.
You
No, I
meet
would
people in
agree.
your life for a reason, and then you meet people in your life and they're in your life for a whole season. Maybe they got you a project. Maybe they introduced you to your husband or your boyfriend or a client. And then you've got people that are in your life for a lifetime. And
Yeah.
so, there's a
I
season for everything.
Yeah, well, I would agree. Planting seeds is something that you definitely need to be doing all the time, and you never know when they're going to
Hmm.
come back. And yes, you might be one conversation
Right.
away, one networking event away, one meeting away,
Hmm.
from meeting somebody that could, forever change your business and change the directory of
Absolutely.
where you're going. So
Right.
it's,
And I'm guilty of it as well. I'm guilty of it as well as making sure that I follow up with people I meet. I'm not always the best at that, and I need to get better. But yeah, that's my crazy world in a nutshell.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you being here today. If anyone is listening and they come across this podcast and they want to get in touch with you, Beth, what is the best way? Why don't you tell us your email, your website, whatever you want to put out there if someone does
Sure.
want to contact you?
Well, let's see. I would say the best way is to send me a text or call or send me an email. That's probably my preferred way of chatting with somebody.
But what's the
I
website?
don't mind giving
What's
out
the
my cell phone
business?
number.
Yeah, what's the business name and how do they find your website?
My business name is Beth Goldsmith Creative Works.
So
So it's
.com?
my name with Creative Works.
All right, so it would be
Oh, I'm
w.
sorry. Yeah, I apologize. www.bethgoldsmithinc.com, like incorporated.
Okay,
And then
that's
my email address is beth@bethgoldsmithinc.com. So it's beth@bethgoldsmithinc.com. That's my
okay. And go
email.
ahead and tell us your phone number.
So,
All right. Well, that's a wrap, guys. And thank you, Beth, for being here. Really appreciate you being on the show today.
well,
And
thank
I
you
look
for giving me the
forward.
time. This was a lot of fun.
Yep. And you stay on, okay? But thanks, everybody. And we'll see you on the next
Okay.
episode of the Bold Vision podcast. Thanks for joining us today.